First, I'd like to correct myself. I'd like to greet you all on behalf of myself and on behalf of my association. Instead of Atilla Benli, I am here. Attila unfortunately had a last minute meeting, so this is why I am going to address you on behalf of the Insurance Association of Turkey. And I am going to talk about the partnership of technology with different industries, and I am delighted to be here to talk about this specific theme, and hopefully it's going to be a nice look at the horizon and a brief one indeed. And I'd like to divide my speech into a few parts. First, I'll give you an overview on the insurance industry. Who are we, what we do, what kind of an ecosystem, and what is the size of the ecosystem that we have. And I will talk about the journey that we've had so far for technology. And the Insurance Association of Turkey has 71 members. So there are 71 operational insurance companies in Turkey who are our members, and some 44 of them are in non-life branches. 6 life of them are only dealing with life, and 16 of them are involved in life and retirement, and we have 4 reinsurance companies. And in this ecosystem, well, in terms of size, I mean, 762 billion TL is the size of our assets that we manage, and we have 220 compound annual growth rate. So this is a promising industry. But when you compare it with the banking industry, well, you see that the banking ecosystem is dominating a lot, and we only represent a share of 5%, and we need to grow. When we have a look at insurtechs, it is more like more positive differentiation. And there, the structure and the penetration, I mean, is at 10%, which is good news for us. And as for intermediaries and distribution channels, this is quite critical. Well, from the perspective of customer experience, I would also like to delve into that. And non-life, is represented by 60% by agencies, and 75% for life sector is being represented by banks. So bank reinsurance. So maybe digital channels there are more dominant, and technology there is being used more frequently. As for premiums there, well, there is a division of 80 to 20, so life is smaller, so elementary branches. But when we look at global insurance practices, the life section is normally containing a bigger population. The insurance industry has always been on a very thin line of profitability. And what does it really bring along? This brings along optimization. The utilization of technology, we can approach it from 2 different angles. The first is the optimization of income and expenses, operational optimization, I mean. And here we see a huge room for improvement. And on the other side, customer experience. This is also another angle, and I'd like to approach it from these 2 angles, as I am talking about the journey. And from this particular framework, damage management optimization, as for, I mean, expense optimization, I think it's critical, as I said. And for customer experience, it's also critical, because states has a very advanced insurance market, and it is still a push product, even in that particular market. Unfortunately, the product itself is not something that people buy with their own motivation. You need to push people, you need to sell it to them. And on these both sides, insurtechs are becoming important stakeholders. When we have a look at it, insurtechs and the insurance industry are gathered by some platforms. Yıldız Technical University's InsurTech Hub Istanbul Technical University's platform. And there are very well-known platforms of two insurance companies. So there, mutual existence is possible. And the insurance sector, their own experience. We're talking about a history of 300 to 400 years. We're talking about such a long history of modern insurance. And InsurTech and startup ecosystem is very agile, and their mutual interaction and existence with one another is quite important, and it is their common denominator. And unfortunately, InsurTech or startups and their development was rather late, but they've been fast when it comes to the advancement that they had. When we have a look at Canada and the US 2022 August report of the startup report is, according to that, there are many structures, 313 in the UK. In Turkey, we only have 93 compared to Germany, which is at around 190. And Europe has been a bit conservative about that. And InsurTech for insurance technologies, what is being used a lot? Well, we are sitting on data here, so handling them or making good use of it and having projections on data, underrating, for example, for risk engineering and pricing and segmentation of customers' perception. Handling data is important. So the industry's friendship with artificial intelligence dates back some years ago. So, and we also have seen trends that customer experience has become also important.
So when we look at the Gartner data, actually we can see the investment trend. So we see about 51% in the insurance industry investing in AI and InsurTech. So these are what the figures are telling us. And honestly, during the pandemic, there has been an increased momentum towards technology, and obviously that was a circumstantial compelling, but it was very nice. What about the areas of focus? Number one was damage identification. Right now, we still do that, especially in small-scale damages. Remotely, we can use AI and determine the damage with images, with photographs, and very quickly that is reflected to customer experience, and it is then reflected onto processes. It's used quite commonly, but in small-scale damages. But in healthcare insurance, then remote diagnosis has been quite commonly developing. And then in personal pension systems, there has been a robo-advisor application that's been around for a while. So robots make investment decisions on your behalf based on certain algorithms. So we are seeing momentum in these areas. According to a McKinsey report, generally speaking, global momentum is quite in line with this. So life insurance is 16%, and then 18% in healthcare industry. So we see InsurTech in these areas. So we see quite a bit of a parallel with what's happening in the rest of the world and in Turkey. At the end of the day, turning back to customer experience, so with the increasingly younger generation, with the demographics changing, as you might imagine, people want to take the initiative to have options on multiple platforms. They don't want to be told what to do. They want to do their own research. They want to see multiple options, and they want to choose the optimal product in the most affordable way. So I think that's where the world is heading to. It's already happening right now. And in terms of distribution channels, this is where the evolution is also taking place. This is an important marker of development in the industry. Mr. Chairman will probably talk about that during the session. So in this regard, there will be certain implementations that will pave the way for further growth in the industry. We're going to see those over time. In terms of products, just like I've said, because the profit margins are very, very refined, very niche products should be used during the distribution channel processes, and opportunities need to be seized. That looks inevitable. In terms of damage determination, quick solutions are important opportunities ahead of us. And especially, just like I've said, because the product is a push product, then embedded insurance is becoming high on the agenda. So when we think of embedded insurance, what we mean is that when somebody buys a service or a product, after that, they might say, well, what about my risk? How do I eliminate? That's not what they do, as you might imagine. So you offer a service or a product to the customer, and then you offer an insurance as you sell that product and service. So embedded products should be increasing in number. As you know, after the experience of the earthquake, including obligatory earthquake insurance, we have been reflecting on how we can embed insurance in so many different services. We are reflecting on that. So digital products, including phones, we think of it this way. If you embed that in insurance, then insurance penetration goes up, and then access to the products can be even better. This is what we predict. When we think of insurance, and when we think of technology and cyber systems, of course, we need to talk about cybersecurity. And as you know, we are a part of the global federations that we are a part of as insurers. There is a new report that came out, and the report shows us the following. There are protection gaps. $2.8 trillion of protection gaps are in the world. 1 trillion of that comes from cyber risks. So between 2011 and 2015, there was an increase by 1.2 times. So we're talking about 50,000 data theft. Between 2015 to 2019, that trebled. And since then, it grew by sixfold. So when we think of cybersecurity, if that is not at the core of what you do, you cannot talk about digitalization or insurtech. So these threats should be born in our minds, and we need to protect ourselves against them. Especially, insurance plays a very large role, and we need to admit that. Before I conclude my speech, I would like to hereby talk about how insurance companies should develop insurtechs within their own premises, or they should go into collaborations with startups. A huge effort is put in place there, and that ecosystem is growing in Turkey day by day. Hopefully, in the next terms, that mutual work will bear even better fruits. Thank you very much for listening to me. I hope I have been able to add to your vision.